What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. Today I'm bringing my college football Week 4 Top 25 rankings. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we get completely started here today though, do me a favor and hit that big old red subscribe button down below. That way when I post more videos, you'll be the first one to know about them. Now let's get back to the rankings. So coming in at number 25, I've got Florida State. They beat Louisville this week on Friday. They've looked solid. They beat a strong LSU team, which I think is pretty underrated. They did lose their starting quarterback in the Louisville game, though, so I'll be curious to see how that affects them going forward. So coming in at number 24, I've got Wake Forest. They had a tough out this week, winning by 1 against Liberty, which Hugh Freeze and Liberty's team is not an easy out, but Wake Forest should be able to handle them. So only winning by 1 point is a little concerning to me. Their quarterback did just come back last week, though, so he could just still be warming up. They do have Clemson this week, and what should show just how good they really are. At number 23 for me this week, I've got Florida. They dropped pretty good for me. They kind of disappointed me this week against USF, barely pulling out the win in the swamp. Next week, they play Tennessee, and what should show what they're really made of. Another big dropper for me this week, at number 22, I've got Miami. They're coming off a loss to Texas A&M in which their offense looked absolutely abysmal. Under Tyler Van Dyke, I really thought they'd be able to air raid it a little more, but frankly, they couldn't throw over 5 yards last night. It was pretty embarrassing. At number 21, back in the rankings, I've got the team that just beat Miami, Texas A&M. They finally made the quarterback switch, going to Johnson, but their offense still looked pretty stagnant. Even with Johnson, they only mustered 17 points, so that's a worry to have. At number 20, I've got Baylor. They dropped a little bit for me this week. Not really from anything that they did this week. They looked fine, but the real reason they dropped is because the team that beat them last week looked pretty sorry today. Speaking of that said team, at number 19, I've got BYU. This was probably the most disappointing team for me this week. They got absolutely destroyed by Oregon. After the way Oregon got handled by Georgia, I really didn't expect much from Oregon, but Oregon just absolutely crushed BYU. BYU did not impress me today, so that's why they're down at number 19. So at number 18, I've got the team that actually absolutely handled BYU today. Oregon is back in my top 25. They kind of scared me after week 1, but I will say Bo Nix looked pretty good today. If he can play like this, that may be trouble. Coming in at number 17, I've got Ole Miss. They haven't really beaten anybody. They beat Georgia Tech today pretty handily, but they're pretty solid out. They've got a transfer in at quarterback, Jackson Dart from USC, and they've got a TCU running back transfer that was a 5-star, Zach Evans. They have been solid all year. They haven't really beaten anybody, like I said, but they could be trouble. At number 16, I've got my newcomer of the week, Washington. The Huskies absolutely destroyed Michigan State. They kind of had a little scare at the end, but the score really wasn't as close as the game really was. With Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback, Washington could mean business. At number 15, I've got Texas. I was a little worried how they would look without Quinn Ewers, barely losing last week against Alabama, 19-20. But they actually looked pretty good today. I thought it may be a letdown game. They kind of struggled in the first half, but in the second half, they really turned it on. Ewers did not play today, but he did suit out, so I'll be curious to see how quickly he gets back for him. At number 14, I've got Tennessee, which again today, their offense looked explosive. They play Florida next week in what should move them up or down. Number 13, I've got NC State. They look good today in a win over Texas Tech. They play Clemson in 2 weeks, which should be a pretty good game. At 12, I've got Penn State. Once again, James Franklin and Sean Clifford look good. They beat Auburn pretty handily today in what could possibly be Brian Harsin's last game as Auburn head coach. At number 11, I've got Utah. This is my highest one-loss team, but their one loss was to Florida in the swamp, barely losing. If they play again today, they might win that game, so I'm not going to knock them too much for that. Once again today, Utah looks solid. Watch out for the Utes. At number 10, I've got Arkansas. They had a pretty good scare today against Missouri State in the Bobby Petrino revenge game. I thought they were going to lose this one, I'm going to be honest. They were down 14 or 17 pretty late in the game, but they ended up crawling back and getting the W. At number 9, I've got Kentucky. Once again today, they look solid. They just keep on winning. They're going to go as far as Will Levis will take them. So at number 8, I've got Oklahoma State. This is really what I've been waiting on from the Cowboys. I've been waiting on them for just absolutely to destroy somebody, and they finally did that today. And with that, I think they might be in business. At number 7, I've got another Big 12 team that I've really been waiting on. I've got Oklahoma. I've been skeptical on the Sooners this year. I know they've been good in the past, but they've got a new coach, they've got a new quarterback, and they've got a pretty new team. But this one against Nebraska, they look pretty dang good. I realize Nebraska is not really that big of an opponent right now, but this is what I've been waiting on for them. Like I said with Oklahoma State, pretty similar. I've been waiting on them to just absolutely destroy somebody, and they did that today against a quality opponent. At number 6, I've got USC. Once again, this offense is absolutely dominant, but also once again, this defense really scares me. When they play some legit competition, I'm scared this defense is not going to be able to stop anybody. The offense can score with anybody, but the real question is when the going gets tough, is this defense going to be able to stop anybody? And I really don't know the answer to that question yet. So at number 5, I've got Clemson. This team could be dangerous. If they can figure out the quarterback situation, which is a big maybe because I really don't know if they'll be able to, but if they can figure out that quarterback situation, this team will be in the playoff, no doubt. Go ahead and book it. At number 4, I've got Michigan. Once again, another week, another dominating win for the Wolverines. Michigan just keeps on rolling. I realize they haven't really played any competition, but they've been dominant in every win they've had so far. Watch out for the Wolverines. At number 3, I've got the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Ohio State Buckeyes look pretty dominant this week, beating a 2-0 Toledo team pretty handily. These top 3 teams are on a different level for me, and the Buckeyes look good this week. At number 2, I've got Georgia. I was tempted to put them at number 1 this week, especially after how Oregon looked against BYU, but I kept them at number 2 regardless. But either way, all you got to do is win out, and they'll be there in the end. And with their schedule, it sets up pretty nicely for them. Georgia's looked good so far, and once again this week, they look pretty dominant in what I thought would actually be a pretty good game. I realize that South Carolina is not very good, but I thought being at home, having Spencer Rattler, I thought at least be competitive, but the Bulldogs made sure that wasn't the case. At number 1, I've got Alabama. I know a lot of people want Georgia at this number 1 spot, but I realize Alabama barely won last week against Texas, but that was the worst game any Alabama team has ever played for Nick Saban, okay? That was the most penalized game ever in the Nick Saban era at Alabama. So if they can win that game, they can win any game. So on your screen now is a recap of my top 25. If you want to recap my top 25, you may want to pause the video now so you can look at this. Thanks for checking out my video. For more college football related content, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll be posting my next top 25 next Sunday following this weekend's slate of games. I'll also be posting my predictions and the teams most likely to get upset in week 5. Until next time, AG out.